Hello and welcome back to another Sky Sports Fantasy Football Game Week preview. Obviously last week there was no Game Week preview over on YouTube. If you follow him on Twitter, you will know that I was away for a couple of days and instead we done the Game Week preview over there and done kind of a bit of a thread instead. This week we are back to our regular videos and it is going to be that way for the foreseeable. But we are of course starting off with our average remaining transfers. Before we get into that, obviously it is going to be a bit of a shorter game week this week. There is only 4 games playing, 1 on Saturday and 3 on Sunday, so there isn't really going to be too much to go over in terms of like many transfers and stuff to be making. But in terms of the average remaining transfers, it was covered in Friday's thread when we were previewing last week, but there has been a big change in terms of the average remaining transfers. Obviously a lot of people were using transfers last week, myself included. I think I used 5 in that weekend, and it definitely looks to be a very popular thing that people have made a good few moves. So top 10s went down 3.4 on average, the top 100 down 2, as well as the top 1000, and the top 5000 has went down 1.8 as well. So we are now looking at 14 as the average in terms of the top 5000, and 15 looks like the average for the top 1000. So you can see in the bottom right hand corner how I'm kind of getting on in terms of like looking at the average ranks and my own transfers. I have been burning through the transfers the last couple of weeks. I think the last time I actually made a video as a game week preview, I was on 24 transfers in my first team, so that is now down to 17 after using 2 at the weekend and 5 the week before that. So 15 transfers does look like the average for the top 1000. If we go back to the start of the season when we made the transfer planner, this is kind of what it was looking like. Obviously we're going into game week 32 now, so realistically 15 transfers is basically kind of what you want to be aiming for over the next 2 weeks. If you're not planning on making any transfers this week, then you've obviously got this blank coming up, and then 15 transfers to kind of work for the rest of the season. So I think if you're kind of out and about that, if you've maybe got, similar to myself, about 17 transfers, anything more than that, you're definitely in a good position. I think if you've got about 20, you're definitely looking very decent right now. And again, even if you're sitting on maybe like 14, 13, obviously there is going to be some space to cut back. You probably not want to really be making too many transfers unless it's essential for the next 3 or 4 weeks. But I don't think you're in a terrible position. I think you really only need to worry massively if you're on about like 11-10 transfers right now. That's when you really need to start cutting it back. But I think most people right now, again, when you look at the averages, I can pull that back up here, most people are sitting on about 15 transfers anyway, and I think most people are looking like they're in a pretty decent position. So taking a look at our popular transfers this week, then we do have Dominic Solanke, who is sitting at number 1. Obviously a good few people would have took him out for Ivan Toney last week or 2 weeks ago. Now Ivan Toney has came straight back out now that his single was up and he's not really been performing amazingly. Again, I think it's one of those tough ones where ideally you probably would have wanted to keep Toney in your team, but Solanke is so essential with obviously the single against Luton tonight, and his form as well. He's doing really good. So most people just have to settle with a front 3 of Haaland, Watkins and Solanke, and unfortunately Toney just had to be the one that came out there. Again, similar with Alvarez, who is sitting there again in popular transfers out. 2 guys who have probably came out for Solanke in the last week. Son is obviously back now, and Spurs' fixtures are starting to pick up. Obviously we did have to wait a couple of weeks because they did have blanks and they just weren't really playing as much as we wanted them to. Now Son is back, the Spurs fixtures are really picking up, and they do have a good few over the next couple of weeks. So Son is a very good pick to have, and definitely probably one that's going to end up staying in most teams until the end of the season. Mo Salah, another one, probably a bit too early, I think, in my opinion. The people that have brought him in, obviously he didn't start against Man City, so people have really only got 1 point from him who did bring him in. I think going forward now, when Liverpool do get their game back, I think it's Brighton I think they play against next, you are definitely going to be wanting to get Mo Salah in, but that is still a couple of weeks away. That's not this week. so we don't really need to worry about that too much. Cole Palmer, another one, similar to Romero. I think we're really starting to get to the stage of the season where people are bringing in the players that are just going to be held until the end of the season. Someone like Cole Palmer, obviously 6.5 million, has been the enabler of the year. Obviously took him out because Chelsea didn't have too many games. They had their single against Newcastle, he got a goal and an assist, and I think he literally jumped up to about 96% ownership in the top 1,000, so I think that is basically going to be him until the end of the season. Most people are going to have that, so we're really only looking at 10, a team of 10 players, and if you take Haaland out of that, we've really only got a team of 9 players to worry, because everyone's got Palmer and everyone has Haaland. Again, similar to Romero, just one of the better looking defenders right now, with the likes of Brighton having tough games and not so many games, and a lot of people had the likes of Dunk and Van Heck. He would have been a popular transfer in for those kind of players. Trippier obviously injured, along with Ederson, who is now going to be out for about 3-4 weeks, so he's also in there in terms of transfers out. Saka as well, someone who just didn't have enough games. Obviously the one game that they do have coming up is against Man City, so there is a decent opportunity for some fixture gains there, and is probably why people have brought him out. But he is going to probably end up being in this top 5 transfers in list in about a week or so anyway, so there's not really too much to take note of there. So next up we are looking at our captaincies then, and again, as I said at the start of the video, we'd only have two days to worry about in terms of fixtures, and only 4 games in there. So captaincy wise, I do think Son is going to be the main captain on Saturday. Again, you did see by the transfers out, Tony was a very popular transfer out, and I doubt too many people really are going to own him now, so Son's definitely going to be the most popular pick. On Sunday I went for Watkins. I do think Bowen is also going to be someone who could be considered. In terms of like looking into the captaincies, I've got a wee graphic here. Again, the stats here, in terms of the chances conceded, are taken from Fantasypedia over on Twitter. Their link will be down in the description if you want to go check them out, because they do the different chances conceded by each team every week. So this is based on last week's stats. In terms of Fulham and Burnley, obviously they both play the same position in terms of Son and Tony. They both play up front. So looking at Fulham and Burnley, it is very, very even between these two. Obviously, Fulham concede 106 chances down the middle, whereas Burnley have conceded 105 chances down the middle, so it's basically bang even. And then when you're looking at the goals, the chances of goals, Son's 42% and Tony is 42% of a goal, and then 2 or more goals, they're literally the exact same there as well. So I do think it is going to be a bit of a coin flip if you do own both of them. Again, I think for me, and I think the majority of you watching as well, will just own Son, and if you don't, I would get to own Son. I think even though you're not going to gain an extra fixture out of it, he is definitely the standout captain on Saturday, and I definitely wouldn't want to be missing out on him. So again, I think, and if you own both, it's definitely a coin flip. It's one of those ones that you can either go for the differential in Tony, or you can go for the safe pick in Son. In terms of day 2, which is going to be Sunday, this one's a bit more standout. I think Watkins is the obvious option here. West Ham have conceded 133 chances down the middle, which is nearly double what Aston Villa have conceded, so Watkins definitely looks like a better pick. Watkins obviously a much higher percentage of scoring than Bowen as well, even though Bowen is still a pretty decent chance as well, 32% there. I definitely think it's a much easier captaincy pick there, and if you are struggling to decide between the two, I think the stats definitely favour Watkins here. So taking a look at our fixture gains for this week, again there's not really going to be too much available, as we kind of look to gain extra fixtures, and in terms of looking at this week's fixtures, there's only really one fixture you can gain from, and that is the Villa and the West Ham game. So again, if you don't own Watkins, I would definitely get him in as soon as possible, because it does obviously, it is the best captaincy, and it has been very, very good recently. In terms of some fixture gains, you will find a few on Sunday. Whether it's worth it or not, I think it's up to you to really decide. We've obviously got these 3 fixtures here for West Ham. 3 pretty difficult fixtures though. They do have Villa at home, obviously, which which is Sunday's fixture. Then they have Newcastle at St James's Park, and then they have Spurs as well. So you do get a 3-1 over Sheffield, over Man United, over Man City as well, where you're avoiding this Arsenal game, over Liverpool, over Chelsea, over Brighton, Brentford and Arsenal there as well. So there is a good few in there, but whether you think it's probably, let's be honest, it's probably going to be Bowen that you're going to be looking at in there. Whether you think Bowen's going to outscore whoever you're taking out, let's say it's Phil Foden for Man City, you're really looking at about 20 points that Bowen needs to outscore Foden by, if you're going to bring Foden back in, of course. So you're going to make one transfer to get Bowen in, and then you're going to take another transfer to get back whoever you want to take Bowen out for. So that's 20 points really you're looking at. Foden could obviously do quite well against Arsenal. Obviously he's just an example, but is Bowen going to be scoring 20 points in those 3 fixtures? I don't think I would bank on it, to be honest. So I think I would probably just wait and use my transfers elsewhere, because obviously there is going to be lots of opportunity to do so. This is us now coming into April in terms of the fixtures. After this week pretty much, we do have one more week, which is the 30th of March and the 31st of March, and then we are straight into the April fixtures. So there's only about 8 game weeks left or something. And again, if you're sitting on about 15 transfers, you're averaging about 2 more per week. But for me, I do think there's going to be a lot better opportunities to use 1 or 2 transfers than going for this West Ham fixture again. And then of course, to end off the video, we do have my current team right now. Of course, the game week hasn't ended yet, so I can't save my captains for the upcoming week, because we do still have Bournemouth versus Luton. Unfortunately, Solanke just hasn't really been brilliant. It was very unfortunate for him against Sheffield, where obviously we're hoping for a big haul out of him. Ended up missing a penalty and then having a goal disallowed as well, so wasn't ideal. But again, most people are going to be in the same position, so it's not really the end of the world. It's not like it was a differential or anything like that. 2 transfers were made for me this week. Trippier, of course, with his injury, had to come out. I brought in Romero. A good start from him with a clean sheet and passes. Can't really ask for much more. And then Gross came out. Again, for me, I do really like Gross. I got on Gross very, very early on in the season, and done very well with him. Brought him out for Palmer purely because I see my ideal midfield as these 4 guys with Salah in here. So I thought if there's an opportunity to get Gross out when they don't have too many fixtures, I'm going to do it. And then brought Palmer in, because again, like I say, I'd like Rodri, Son, Saka, Palmer and Salah to be my midfield 5. Eventually one of these strikers is going to have to come out for Salah to come in, and then I really don't see a better midfield than that. So Gross just wasn't really in the long term plans for me, even though he is such a great player in Sky Fantasy. So I don't know, maybe we can look back at him when the Brighton fixtures start to pick up again, but they do kind of have some difficult fixtures with City and Liverpool coming up. Neto's an interesting one, right? So I did see something today about Areola not sure if he's actually going to start Neto in goals after a mistake at the weekend. I don't know how reliable that source is, but it is a source and it did get said. So if Neto's not going to play, obviously going to have to possibly look at getting him back out again. But I actually like hopefully he does, because I like these fixtures for Bournemouth. I'd probably just keep him right up until this Man United game, because these are 4 fixtures where you would expect Bournemouth not to keep a clean sheet. So I'd like to keep him for another couple games. Hopefully he does play. Hopefully he does keep his spot in there as well. But yeah, I'm quite happy with this team. I feel like this is an ideal back 3. Maybe Saliba in here over Van Dijk just to save some cash. Still 3.8 million in the bank, so actually I don't know if I could. I probably couldn't afford Solanke to Salah straight away, so I'd probably have to downgrade Van Dijk in order to get there. But happy with this team, looks quite good. Second team is up to 8k. We're slowly making progress in here. Still got a lot of Man City players in here, which isn't ideal, because they just don't really have that many fixtures. Again, I'm not really too bothered with this team. I'm down 14 transfers in here, really just using them willy-nilly. Nunez came out for Palmer, and then I think Gabriel came out for Romero. I think that's what's happened here. Probably going to get rid of Foden at some point. Got to get rid of Walker at some point. Bowen's going to stay while he's got the extra fixtures. There's no point in taking him out there. But again, the rest of the team is quite similar to the first team. This team's kind of nowhere. This team's up to 3k now, so I've managed to get about 1,000 places in the last 2 weeks, which is decent. Still hopefully on the hunt for the top 1,000, even though it's looking less and less likely as the weeks progress, but hopefully it works out quite well for me. But that is going to be the end of this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like. If you're new, please subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.